Changing your life is never easy. Not because you lack strength, but because letting go of what's familiar takes courage. It means stepping away from what's convenient, breaking cycles that have become automatic, and acting in ways you haven't yet mastered. The hardest part? Doing all of this without any certainty, without knowing if you'll stay consistent, without knowing if you'll handle the pressure, without knowing if this time you'll fall again. That's exactly why this video exists, because real clarity doesn't begin with change alone. It starts when you begin to organize your life from the inside out. What I'm sharing today are not just habits, they're mental clarity frameworks inspired by ancient wisdom and refined for modern life. When your mindset shifts, your environment follows. Confusion fades, discipline returns, and becoming your best self stops being a dream and starts becoming your default. Each principle you'll hear today stands strong on its own, but together they form a direct, clear, and deeply effective strategy for men ready to take full ownership of their path. So don't just watch. Listen, reflect, decide. Comment below. Today I choose to evolve. And if this message resonates, help others find it too. Like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs clarity more than comfort. Let's begin. 1. You don't need a new life. You need new eyes. You don't need to start over. You need to see differently. Most men believe the answer to their dissatisfaction lies in external change. A new job, a different relationship, a relocation, or a radical life overhaul. But that belief is what keeps you stuck. Because no matter where you go or what you try, you're taking the same unorganized mind with you. It's not your life that's broken. It's the lens you've let become dirty, cluttered with assumptions, impulsive judgments, and outdated narratives. And until you clean that lens, nothing you change will feel enough. Clarity begins where distortion ends. Imagine waking up each morning and grabbing a pair of cracked glasses. You wear them without question, not realizing they've warped your view of everything. Your job, your wife, your worth. You assume the problem is out there, but it isn't. It's the lens. Every unchecked thought, every recycled complaint, every passive reaction adds another smudge. Eventually, you're not seeing the world, you're seeing your own confusion reflected back at you. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Epictetus said it plainly, it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. They trained themselves to pause before reacting, to examine the filter between stimulus and response. In modern terms, they mastered their mental clarity. They didn't wait for life to change. They learned to interpret life differently. That's why their philosophy still works. It's not about pretending the chaos outside doesn't exist. It's about refusing to let it invade your focus. Today, the modern man is overwhelmed not by lack of opportunity, but by lack of clarity. Notifications, expectations, distractions, they're all noise. And when there's too much noise, even smart decisions become blurry. You lose track of what matters. You confuse activity with progress. You chase growth without direction. The truth is, your brain isn't your enemy, but if left cluttered, it becomes your greatest liability. So how do you begin to clean the lens? Start by questioning your default reactions. When something frustrates you, traffic, a rude email, a missed deadline, don't just react. Ask, what story am I telling myself about this? Is it true? Or is it an old script I haven't deleted? This one pause interrupts chaos. One breath resets the frame. One conscious thought shifts everything. Over time, this becomes a system, a way of seeing, a daily clarity habit. You don't need a better life, you need a better perception. Because once your view sharpens, what felt unbearable becomes manageable, what felt heavy became organized, and what once kept you stuck becomes the very pressure that builds your strength. Organizing your mind isn't abstract, it's strategic, and it's your first real step to reclaiming your energy, your focus, and your future. Commentary won't change your path, but clarity will. Clarity begins when you decide to see again, not with new surroundings, but with new awareness. Clean the lens, and watch your entire life come back into focus. 2. The silent thief of clarity. You can't fix what you don't see. And most men never notice the slow erosion of their clarity until it's already compromised. There's no alarm when it starts. No crash, no obvious signal, just a slow, quiet leak in the foundation. You feel a little more tired, a little more reactive, a little less focused. Days get heavier, patience runs thinner. and you tell yourself it's just the season, just work, just stress. But beneath all of it, something has been silently stealing your edge. Clarity doesn't vanish all at once. It's taken in pieces, by unchecked thoughts, impulsive reactions, emotional clutter, and unfiltered noise. Like fog creeping in through a window left slightly open. You keep wiping the glass, thinking the problem's on the surface, but the distortion is coming from within. The mind, once sharp like a blade, becomes dull not through crisis, but through neglect. This is where most men go wrong. They blame the outside world, the emails, the demands, the people around them. But the Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius wrote that if the outside disturbs you, the problem isn't the outside. The problem is your permission, your lack of internal boundaries, your untrained responses. You don't control the storm, but you choose whether to leave the window open. And when the wind gets in, it's not just your thoughts that get scattered. It's your direction, your decisions, your discipline. Disorganization begins inside, and it compounds quietly. You forget what matters. You get caught in loops, scrolling, reacting, distracting. You confuse being busy with being effective. You chase novelty and numbness instead of focus and clarity. The brain, overwhelmed, shifts into survival mode. And from that state, no vision can be built. You can't lead yourself when your mind is being hijacked by everything you haven't filtered. That's why the first step toward organizing your life isn't external. It's internal sanitation. Cleaning out the unprocessed thoughts. Recognizing the emotional weight you've been carrying. Learning to separate what's noise from what's signal. Just like a man who sharpens his tools before stepping into the field, you need to sharpen your ability to process life, not react to it. Begin by noticing. When your frustration spikes, ask where it's coming from. When you feel numb or restless, trace the source. When you're unfocused, don't blame the day. Check the state of your mental environment. One breath, one pause, one act of awareness can stop the drift. You don't need to eliminate every distraction overnight, but you must start identifying the ones that have become normal without permission. Clarity isn't gifted, it's reclaimed. And often, the thief isn't outside, it's inside. The old thought you never challenged, the emotion you never processed, the belief you never updated. But once seen, it loses power. You stop being a prisoner to noise and start becoming a man of order. And in that shift, the fog lifts, not because the world calmed down, but because you did. 3. Why you never finish anything. A cluttered life doesn't begin with chaos. It begins with a lack of structure. Most men don't struggle because they lack intelligence, talent, or even time. They struggle because they've been taught to chase momentum instead of mastering systems. You start projects, you buy the books, you download the app, but then the days blur. One delay turns into a week, and the spark dies. Not because you didn't care, because you had no framework to hold your focus. Productivity isn't about energy, it's about alignment. When your internal system is disorganized, you spend your energy fighting friction. Every task feels heavier, every decision takes longer. You jump from one half-finished thing to another, convincing yourself you're just busy when in reality, you're circling the same pattern. Unfinished, unstructured, unsatisfied. The Stoics knew the danger of scattering attention. They practiced deliberate action, not scattered motion. Seneca warned against being everywhere and nowhere, jumping between things without anchoring to purpose. Their clarity didn't come from passion. It came from process. And today, in a world full of distractions, that lesson is more necessary than ever. Your mental focus, your real clarity is like a compass. But a compass without a map means nothing. Most men wake up and start walking. No direction, no plan, just reacting to the next demand. That's why nothing gets completed. You weren't lazy, you were aimless. The fix isn't more hustle, it's organization. It's taking 15 minutes the night before to define your 3 non-negotiables for tomorrow. It's mapping your priorities, not by urgency, but by long-term value. It's removing 5 decisions from your morning so your brain can stay sharp for what matters. That's not a weakness, that's elite clarity. Every high-performing man, whether in business, family, or training, runs on a system. They don't waste energy figuring out the basics. They conserve their focus on what moves the needle. That's the edge organization gives you. Not motivation, not talent. A replicable, minimal system that frees you from the trap of decision fatigue and random effort. You want to finish what you start? Build the structure first. You want a focus that lasts beyond the first burst of inspiration? Start treating your time like an asset, not an accident. You want clarity? Then stop relying on mood. Build rituals that hold you steady when the fire fades. This is why most men never finish. They never built the mental architecture that turns ideas into results. They had ambition without alignment, action without structure. And that always leads back to the same place: burnout, frustration, guilt. But you can break the cycle, not by doing more, but by organizing better. Start by writing one clear commitment before you go to bed tonight. Just one. Let it anchor your morning. Let it simplify your choices. Let it prove to you that structure beats force, again and again. Clarity isn't found at the end, it's built at the beginning, and it always begins with organization. 4. You're reacting, not living. Every day feels like a firefight. You wake up already behind, emails, texts, and voices pulling you in 5 directions before your first coffee. And somewhere in that noise, you start to believe this is normal, that life is meant to be managed, not led. But here's the hard truth. If you don't organize your internal world, the external world will control your every move. You're not living, you're reacting. Reaction is the enemy of clarity. It's the mental equivalent of flinching. Something happens, and you respond without thought, without reflection, without direction. You think you're being decisive, but what you're really doing is surrendering your mind to impulse. The Stoics warned against this exact behavior. Epictetus said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space." That space is where clarity lives. It's where power begins. But most men rush past it. They confuse speed with strength and urgency with action. Living is not about doing more. It's about choosing better. But you can't choose wisely when you're always on edge, when your brain is sprinting from one demand to the next. This is what reaction steals from you: the ability to choose deliberately, the space to think, the presence to lead. And when that happens long enough, your day becomes a blur of reactivity, a life driven by external triggers instead of internal standards. Imagine a soldier entering battle without a map, reacting to every gunshot, every flash, every shout. He doesn't lead, he survives. That's how most men live. They treat their schedule, their emotions, and their relationships like emergencies. But if everything is urgent, nothing is clear. If every ping owns your attention, you're not running your life, your phone is. Clarity requires command, and command requires pause. No delay, not avoidance. Just enough space to check your coordinates before moving forward. The Stoics practiced this pause daily. They trained their minds to observe before acting, to decode the situation before rushing in, not because they were passive, but because they understood the cost of unfiltered reaction. They believed that discipline wasn't just about restraint, it was about precision. To regain that discipline, start small. When you're about to send a snarky reply, breathe. When you feel anger rise in traffic, label it. When you're overwhelmed, ask, is this mine to carry? That pause is the line between being a slave to circumstance or a man with direction. And each time you pause, you sharpen that edge. This isn't about being calm all the time. It's about reclaiming the authority to decide what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Because clarity isn't about silence, it's about signal. It's not about doing less, it's about doing what matters with full presence. And that presence only comes when you stop reacting and start choosing. So today, give yourself back that space, the moment between trigger and action, the space where clarity enters, where power returns, and where finally your life is led, not chased. 5. When clarity becomes a weapon. Most men think clarity is just peace of mind. Something soft, something passive, something you turn to when life slows down. But real clarity isn't a break from pressure. It's what lets you perform under it. Clarity, when trained, becomes a weapon. Not a sword that strikes out of emotion, but a scalpel that cuts through noise, distraction, and illusion. It's how the modern man reclaims control, not by reacting louder, but by choosing sharper. The battlefield isn't always loud. Often it's a quiet morning full of tiny distractions. A missed workout, a late start, a quick scroll that becomes an hour lost. And suddenly, your whole day collapses under what looked like nothing. That's what happens when you don't have clarity on command. The man who lacks internal order is at the mercy of his surroundings. And the moment pressure rises, he folds. Not because he's weak, but because he never trained stillness as strength. The Stoics didn't wait for calm to act with precision. They built it into their system. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire under siege but wrote about silence, discipline, focus. His clarity didn't come from easier conditions, it came from inner alignment. His battlefield was internal, and so was yours. You don't need the world to be quiet. You need to be able to hear yourself in the middle of the noise. This is what most men miss. They believe they'll focus when things settle down. But things never settle. There's always another demand, another opinion, another fire to put out. Waiting for life to slow down before you sharpen your mind is like waiting for the storm to pass before you learn to steer. Clarity isn't a bonus, it's survival. In business, in family, in your inner life, it's your most strategic advantage. Because while others are overwhelmed, you remain deliberate. While they react, you move with aim. To make clarity your weapon, you need to practice it where it breaks first, under pressure. Start where the stakes feel real. When work is chaotic, pause and choose what actually matters. When your emotions rise, ask what action will serve, not just satisfy. When others rush, hold your ground. This doesn't make you slow. It makes you surgical. It makes you trusted. It makes you efficient when others are emotional. Clarity on demand doesn't come from motivation. It comes from habit. It's forged in repetition, waking up with intention, cutting out the unnecessary, building your routine not around what's urgent, but around what's essential. Over time, you stop needing ideal conditions. You become your own system. That's the power clarity gives you. Not control over everything, but mastery over yourself. So the next time life pushes, don't push back blindly. Breathe. Organize your thoughts like tools, not weapons. Speak less. Move only when the direction is right. In a world full of noise, the man who can think clearly and act simply is unstoppable. 6. The lie behind "I don't have time." I don't have time is the most believable excuse a man can tell himself, and the most destructive. It feels true. It sounds responsible. It gives you an easy out without guilt. But under that phrase is something deeper. Disorganization masquerading as busyness. The real problem isn't the number of hours in your day. It's the way those hours are spent. Time isn't missing. It's leaking through habits you never questioned, distractions you normalize, and systems you never built. Time is not a resource you find. It's one you reclaim. And until you admit that your structure, not your schedule, is the issue, clarity will always escape you. You'll keep sprinting through your days feeling productive, but ending them exhausted, wondering why nothing moves forward. This is how modern men lose years, chasing urgency while ignoring alignment. The Stoics weren't busy. They were focused. Seneca wrote that it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. He understood that time is destroyed not by events, but by poor priorities. The man who organizes his thoughts organizes his hours, and the man who organizes his hours owns his life. The rest just run in circles. Imagine your day as a jar. If you fill it with sand, endless scrolling, unplanned errands, reactive tasks, there's no room left for the big rocks. The work that matters, the habits that anchor you, the moments that build real progress. But if you reverse the order, big rocks first, then small things, you don't just manage time, you command it. Most men plan their day like gamblers, hoping things fall into place. They rely on mood, energy, and momentum. But high performers don't gamble, they systemize. They make time to serve them by creating mental clarity before the day begins. No man finds time to train, read, or lead his family. He builds a life where those things are non-negotiable. He protects his hours like capital, investing, not spending. That shift starts with visibility. Track your time for 2 days, every task, every scroll, every gap. Then, highlight what was intentional and what was reactive. You'll be shocked by what you tolerated. Next, define your anchors. 3 core actions per day that move your life forward, no matter what else happens. That's how you cut through the noise. That's how time becomes a weapon, not a weight. Stop waiting for time to appear. It won't. Stop blaming the calendar. It's not the problem. The problem is mental disorganization masked as obligation. And the fix isn't more effort, it's structure. When your mind is ordered, your minutes follow. When your vision is clear, your choices sharpen. And when your life is organized around clarity, time is no longer something you lose, it's something you master. So the next time you hear yourself say, "I don't have time," Stop. Replace it with the truth. I haven't organized my life for what matters yet. Then prove it wrong. One clear decision at a time. 7. What you tolerate is who you become. Nothing degrades identity faster than quiet tolerance. Not the dramatic failures, not the big mistakes, but the slow accumulation of compromises you never challenge. It starts with letting clutter sit a little too long, ignoring the tension in your body after that second drink, justifying one more hour of meaningless scrolling, shrinking yourself to keep peace in a room that stopped respecting you years ago. These choices feel small at the moment, but they stack, and what they build silently is a life misaligned with who you know you could be. The real erosion of clarity doesn't happen in explosions. It happens through erosion. You start tolerating low standards, internally and externally, until they start feeling normal. The problem isn't that you've lost control, it's that you've let too many things in without drawing a line. And over time, what you allow reshapes who you are. Not loudly, not instantly, but inevitably. The Stoics had no interest in being agreeable. They weren't rude, they were principled. Marcus Aurelius wrote about examining every input, every person, every environment, and choosing deliberately what stays close. They understood that boundaries aren't about defense, they're about design. When you don't define what belongs, chaos fills the gap. When you don't reject what weakens you, you begin adapting to it. That's how clarity vanishes. Not because the world got louder, but because you stopped filtering. Tolerating what drains you is not noble. It's dangerous. You absorb the energy around you. You become the habits you permit. And no external success can mask the internal confusion that grows when your values and your behavior stop matching. That tension becomes the silent weight you carry, resentment you can't explain, fatigue you can't shake, noise you can't silence. Until you clean the house, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, you'll keep wondering why life feels heavy, even when nothing seems wrong. Picture your mind like a workshop. Every tool is out of place. Every surface is covered in dust. Every drawer is stuffed with what you might need someday. Eventually, you stop building anything real, not because you don't have the skill, but because the environment works against you. The tolerating disorder becomes your default, and that default becomes your identity. Breaking the cycle doesn't require a complete reset. It starts with one hard decision. Name what no longer fits. Say no when your gut tightens. Speak clearly where you used to stay silent. Clean the corner you've been walking past. Not for productivity, but for dignity. Every time you reclaim space, physical, emotional, relational, you remind yourself of who you are and who you're not willing to become. You don't need to fight the world to find clarity. You just need to stop surrendering to what dulls you. Draw a line today. Not for revenge, not for validation, but for alignment. Because who you are becoming is shaped every single day by what you allow to stay. Clarity begins the moment you stop tolerating what doesn't belong. 8. The moment that changes everything. Nothing monumental has to happen for everything to change. Clarity doesn't always arrive in a crisis or breakthrough. Sometimes it slips in quietly, between distraction and decision, between hesitation and commitment. That moment you stop blaming time, stop outsourcing your responsibility, stop explaining why it's not the right season, and instead you just start. That's the shift. That's where life reorganizes from the inside out. Progress is often misunderstood. Most people wait for the feeling before they act. They want momentum before movement, certainty before discipline, and motivation before routine. But the Stoics saw life differently. Seneca wrote, "The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately." He understood that direction is not the result of readiness, it's the result of decision. The moment that changes everything isn't when conditions improve, it's when clarity wins over comfort. Too many men are stuck in cycles not because they're unwilling to grow, but because they're waiting for permission to begin. They wait for the schedule to calm down, for the energy to return, for the world to get quieter. But that silence never comes. And while they wait, entropy takes over. The mind fills with clutter. Priorities dissolve into obligation. The vision fades into busyness. And clarity slips further out of reach, not because it's far away, but because it was never acted on. Think of a workshop abandoned for years. Dust covers every surface. Tools rust from disuse. Projects half built are buried under layers of neglect. You don't restore that space by tearing it all down. You restore it by picking up one tool, wiping one surface, and tightening one bolt. It's not the full transformation that starts the process. It's the decision to touch what you've avoided. The same is true with your life. You don't need a dramatic overhaul. You need to act before you feel ready. You need to make one clear move toward order and do it again tomorrow. This is the heart of Stoic practice, not performance, but persistence. Marcus Aurelius returned to his journal daily, not to impress, but to realign. It wasn't emotional, it was structural. A simple discipline that reminded him who he was and how he chose to meet the day. That's the clarity habit modern life erodes. The muscle of consistent reflection, conscious action, and daily realignment. The moment that changes everything isn't dramatic. It's small, but it's the first time in a long time you don't delay. You don't scroll, you don't excuse me, you do. And when you do, the mind reorganizes. Focus returns. You begin to see what was buried under distraction. Not just the life you want, but the man capable of building it. So start today, not with a grand plan, but with a single commitment. 10 quiet minutes of presence. One corner of your world is cleaned. One decision was made without noise. That's enough. That's clarity. And that's the moment everything starts to shift. Clarity isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you build. Quietly, daily, deliberately. Each of the 8 principles we explored is more than a mindset shift. It's a system for returning to yourself. When you begin to organize your thoughts, your space, your habits, your time, you stop reacting to life and start leading it. That's where real clarity lives. In structure, in discipline, in calm awareness. You don't need to wait for a better moment. You don't need a louder wake-up call. Everything you've heard today becomes real the moment you apply it. Just one practice, repeated with intention, becomes a habit. And one strong habit leads to a clear identity. That's how you become the man who finishes what he starts, the man who controls his hours, the man who doesn't break when the pressure comes. Use these tools daily. Question your reactions, challenge your assumptions, clear your physical space to reset your mental one, define what matters, and cut the noise around it. Don't chase clarity like a distant goal. Live it like a standard. You won't need perfect conditions, you just need consistent attention. This isn't about adding more, it's about subtracting what no longer fits. What you tolerate is shaping who you become. What you organize is shaping how you think. And the way you act, under pressure or in stillness, defines your path forward. So begin where you are. Share your story in the comments. What part of your life needs clarity now? What's one change you're committing to this week? Because clarity is not a finish line, it's a discipline. And if you choose to live that way, one simple action at a time, everything else will begin to align.